Hello students, this is Dr. Banerjee from History series. Today I am talking about an important topic of world history, Renaissance. Renaissance means rebirth in French. This was a time period following the Middle Ages that lasted from the 1300 to 1500 centuries. There was a renewed interest in learning about the achievements of the ancient Greeks and Romans. The Renaissance had its beginnings in Italy. Italian cities such as Florence and Venice became rich through trade and industry. These cities became the center for many artists and sculptors. Humanism. Humanism emphasized the abilities and accomplishments of human beings. Humanists believed people were capable of great things and placed a great value on education. As a result, artists, architects, leaders, writers, scientists, and other talented individuals were greatly admired. Humanities. Scholars encouraged a new way of thinking and learning. Humanities included history, poetry, and grammar. Renaissance impact on art. Oil-based paints were used for the first time. Artists began to paint in perspective, that is 3D, and use shading. Artists painted everyday life instead of religious scenes. Michelangelo, a famous painter and sculptor, was born in this time. These are some of famous works of Michelangelo. Peter, art pencil sketch, creation of Adam. Leonardo da Vinci, a great painter, sculptor, architect, scientist and engineer who thrived during this time. Da Vinci, the first scientist to perform human dissections of the body to study anatomy. He painted very realistic pictures such as the Mona Lisa and the Last Supper. He drew the first sketches of man in flight using wings. He also sketched plants and animals. These are some of his anatomical drawings. The famous painting Mona Lisa. Last Supper. Renaissance impact on literature. William Shakespeare is probably the most famous Renaissance writer. He is most famous for his plays, but also wrote poetry. His writing shows a deep understanding of human nature and expresses the thoughts and feelings of his characters. More people learned to read after the invention of the printing press. Ideas were shared with others in distant areas. These are some of the famous plays of William Shakespeare. Renaissance impact on science and technology. Johannes Gutenberg invented the first real printing press in Germany. Gutenberg's first printed book was the Bible. For the first time in history, the average person had access to printed materials. Science and technology continued. Some of the ancient Greek and Roman works rediscovered during the Renaissance dealt with science. For the first time, Europeans could read about early Greek and Roman scientific advances. These discoveries inspired Europeans to study maths, astronomy, and science. Renaissance impact on navigation and exploration. Advances in technology helped to make exploration of the world possible. The introduction of latitude lines on maps made it easier for navigators to find their way. Discovery of new ocean currents. New instruments allowed sailors to locate their positions. New ships could carry enough food and water for longer voyages. Larger ships with new sails and better steering devices made longer voyages possible. On the top right corner, you can see a compass. It was used to tell the direction during those times as there was no GPS. Reformation. By the early 1300 centuries, many Europeans thought the church had become too powerful and wealthy. Complaints and unhappiness with the church led to a religious reform movement called the Reformation. The Reformation began in what is now Germany. People thought religious officials had lost sight of their religious duties. The Protestant Reformation. A German monk named Martin Luther disagreed with the teachings of the Catholic Church. In 1517, Luther nailed a list of complaints to a church door in Wittenberg, Germany. These complaints were called the 95 Theses. Luther's protest angered church officials who expelled him from the church. Martin Luther's ideas. He believed that the way to heaven was to have faith in God. He believed the Bible was the only authority for Christians. Martin Luther's followers became known as Protestants. They protested against the church and its teachings. Martin Luther started the Lutheran Church. Protestant Reformation. Other reformers followed Luther and created churches of their own. The Roman Catholic Church was no longer the only church in Western Europe. Catholic Reformation was also known as the Counter-Reformation. Many Catholic officials wanted to reform the church as well. Church leaders began focusing more on spiritual concerns and less on political power. They worked to make the church's teachings easier to understand. Results of the Reformation. Many different churches arose in Europe. In many areas, especially in the north, Protestants outnumbered Catholics. As the power of the church and the Pope decreased, the power of monarchs, kings or queens, and national governments increased. Religious wars in parts of Europe led to long-lasting political and social change in Europe. That is it for today. Thank you for watching this video. Come back for the next topic.